Hey everybody, today I'm going to be showing you how to do this. Ta-da! It's the optional build for the hallway archway, and it's super easy to make. It looks really cool, and it uses the free blueprints and decals found on the website, which is always a nice feature. And this is going to help you create your Mega Death Star diorama at home by having it one of the modular pieces that you can connect together like you do when you build Lego. So enjoy the video. My name's Frank Diorio. You're watching dioramaworkshop.com. Okay, this is what you'll need in order to make the Death Star hallways archways. You'll need to start some black foam core. If you don't have black foam core in your area, white foam core is okay. I prefer black when working with dark decals because it's easier to hide the seams. Hot glue gun, some hot glue refills. Glue stick is always nice to have. Ruler, pencil, pencil sharpener, L ruler for to make straight angles if you have. If not, it's not that bad. You can still just use the ruler. You'll need X-Acto utility knife, some utility knife blade refills, Sharpie black pen, scissors optional if you prefer working with scissors instead of the X-Acto. Then you'll need to download the hallway archway blueprints and the decals, and these are available for free on the website. And in order to print these, I like to use the full-size shipping labels that have the peel back sticking, so I don't have to use any glue to apply them. If you can't find these, you can use regular paper and apply it with your little glue stick afterwards. To find your free decals and blueprints for your archway diorama construction, just visit my dioramaworkshop.com website, go to the tutorials pull-down menu, all the way down to speed index, click on that, scroll down from Star Wars A New Hope till you find the Death Star hallway archway. You will see that available is making of decals and blueprints. Click on the decal yes, which will bring you to the decal downloads for the archways page. These are the previews of the sheets. And then just click on here, the hallway archway PDF icon, which will open up the PDF. You will be able to download and print all of the decals. For the blueprints, simply select yes from blueprints, which will bring you to the archway blueprint page. Scroll down until you find the PDF icon, click on it, and you will come to the page where you can download the actual blueprints for your construction. Okay, if we look at the blueprint, you'll see that pieces A and B are identical but mirrored. This is because this is your front and this is your rear of your archway. So we're going to start by measuring a piece of 15 centimeters tall, and then you can see that on this side it's 9 centimeters, the archway is 12 centimeters, and then 6 centimeters here. So the total here is 27. So if I mark that to remember, because my memory is really bad as I get older, you shall soon see that for yourselves. So let's start with that, and then we'll cut the insides after. So we're going to start at the bottom of your foam core piece. We want 27 centimeters, so I make a mark here with my pencil, right? Then I can use my square here, so I can make a straight line. Then I want 15 centimeters this way, and 15 centimeters over here. And then I can just trace a line from 15 to 15. And if I measured correctly with the angle, if I go here, I should be seeing 27 centimeters, which is what I have. Excellent. Okay, so what I'll do now is measure another 15 from here. There. Another 15 over here. Draw a line connecting. Okay, so this is my A and B piece, at least the outside rim. So I'm going to start, take a new blade. Always start a project with a new blade. You'll get the best cuts. If you've watched more than one of my videos, you're starting to know now about the jaggy edges and how the foam core is the eater of the blades. When you have dull blades, you'll get all these sort of like, you know, those Aero chocolate bars. You'll get that as a effect on the side, and it won't give you nice cuts to glue with. Then I'll go here. Now I'm not going all the way past the line because I want to keep this foam core good for later. So what I'm doing is I'm going to turn it this way, and then I'm just going to cut down this line here. And then I'll be able to connect on this side. You see how your blade here is angled. So what you want to do is you want to angle that with your foam core. You're going to poke down, slide down, then pull backwards to cut. So press down, poke into the styrofoam, pull back until you connect with the past one, and then you'll see that it gives you the perfect cut. Here I was almost through anyway. It just made, I'll have to do a little trim cleaning here. Now we can put this aside for now. We now have two identical pieces, your front and your back. Okay, we're going to cut out the arches now. So on the first side we're going to measure 9 centimeters. 9. And then in the opposite corner, you see that it's 6. So we can do that right away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 gives you right here. So we'll go to the top and do a demarcation at 9 and at 21. So over here, 9 and 21. Now we'll join those lines. We just need to measure the top 2 centimeter gap here. So 2 centimeters from the top, bring you here. 2 centimeters from the top, give you that, connect. And we now have our archway here that we're going to be cutting. So let's align. We have our 2 centimeter gap here, so let's put the point on your 2 centimeter line, press down, and then slice. Important thing, remember, don't angle sideways your knife and don't leave it too high like this. You don't want to be cutting at a high angle. You always want to cut low so that you will sandwich or slice along the length of the blade, giving you a nicer cut. So down, slice, same thing on this end, down, slice, down, slice. Now to connect our line here, if you're working on small surfaces and that when you put your ruler is going to wobble, like it'll tend to jiggle like this, you can always put another piece of foam core next to it so that your ruler will lean on this as well as on the piece you're cutting, so that the ruler, see, it doesn't have the wobble that you have when you're just have the elevation of the one piece there. Press down towards it, stop before the end, down like this. Now you flip this piece around, align again, then you press down from the center, go backwards until you connect with the cut that you already made. Your piece should pop off like butter. So now we can take this, align it with the first piece that you cut. Take your pencil and you will trace along the lines on the inside. And just like this, you have your other piece ready to cut. Before cutting, it's always best to double check your measurements just in case your hand moved a little. So you want to make sure that you have your 2 centimeters on each end. That'll be important for your decals. And then you want to make sure that on one end you have your 6 centimeters and then your 9 centimeters. So we're okay with that. We're ready to cut. Let's start with this here. Slide. Press down and slide. Drag it around. Press down and slide. Down and slide. Press down, slide. And then turn it this way. Use your little scrap here for the ruler. And then just align the corner so we can cut that perfectly. And pop out that. The center pieces that you just popped out from your rectangles, keep this and put it aside for now. You're going to be using them in a couple of minutes in order to cut them to be the sides of your archway. Okay, so you see that both pieces are exactly the same, except that on one side you're going to be putting the skin on this side, and then when you flip it, you'll be putting your decal skin on the other side. We're now going to be making the C and D pieces. You're going to need 2 of these. They're 13 centimeters by 5 centimeters. So remember those center pieces that you popped out? Just grab one, and it's exactly the 13 centimeters on the side, and we'll be able to fit 2 of the 5 centimeter pieces since this is 12. So we'll scrap the 2 remaining, and then we'll just use this to create the 2 pieces. The 13 centimeters, which is this side, which means that we're going to measure 5 on here, along here, and 5 along the other side. For these 2 pieces, we don't even have to bother tracing. We can just cut them straight off right away. Lower the blade, slice it. Perfect cuts. This we don't need for the moment. We can put this aside. You can always identify your pieces since you'll be putting a sticker over it anyway. No one will see it, and it'll help you identify the pieces when you're going to attach them to the build. For the E piece, which is also 13 centimeters by 5 centimeters, you're going to take the second pop out that you made before, that you cut out, and you're going to take the 13 centimeters, which is this side, which means that we're going to measure 5 on here and 5 along the other side. We'll identify that as E, and then low blade. Remember, not sideways. Try to keep it 90 degrees. Nice clean cut. put this away for now. E is done. We have 3 more cuts and we're ready for the stickers. Let's go back to our original piece. We want to measure 26 centimeters for the H. So I'll make a demarcation at 26. I will measure 5. And then I'll be able to measure 26 from here. Connect that. Okay, this is my H. Identify that, my pencil. All that's left is F and G, 15 by 5. So from here I want to measure 15, 5, and 10. Go to the other end, measure 5, 10, measure 15 from here, draw a line, connect these 2 lines as well, and then my 15s connect here. I'll do a quick mark, F, G, poke down, slide, poke down, slide. Then 1 last slice down the center. How easy was that? So all our pieces are cut. We have our A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H. For the decals, you have 6 sheets that are included in the PDF for the archway. You have the left and right sides, which are basically the A and B that we cut out. You have the decals for the top of your arches, which would be the pieces that go here. And then you have the inside of the archway. Then you have the bookends, which are optional. These are the suggestions that I put, but you can use any of the other decals from the basic HALLWAY set of PDF that has about 20 different varieties, so it's really more your design. You don't have to specifically use this. These are the ones that I find personally look nice on this project. Last but not least, if you're not putting a ceiling on your diorama and just doing a basic hallway design and using the archway as a separator, you might want to use this top skin to hide the thicknesses of the foam core construction. You want to cut in between the blue of the actual wall and the white, which is where your bleed, the bleed is this dark center here. You want to cut anywhere in between that. For your A and B sides, you'll notice that there's a wide separation here because these are actually 2 decals for the 2 sides that you cut, and I stuck them together like this so that you wouldn't have to stick 3 decals, you just have to stick 2 decals. This decal is your 9 centimeter, and then your 6 centimeter is here. When I'm dealing with straight lines in decals, I prefer to use an X-Acto blade instead of scissors. Scissors are fine, but sometimes you'll find it wobbly because you have to sort of like move your way towards one end to the other. So just trim the outsides of your decals. See how there's still a little bit of color? You didn't cut off completely at the white. You still see some bleed around the door, which is what you want. Remember, don't cut this in the center. You want to cut on the outside edges only. For the end pieces, these are the suggestions that I gave to you in the kit. You'll see these little markings in red. That is where you're going to use as a guide to cut along and separate the decals. Now I'm going to use this one and a neon. I'm going to find my 2 red lines over here, and I'm going to align my ruler align my red guides. Since these are the same size and identical to the regular basic hallway walls, you can use these for later in future dioramas. Again, cut along the bleed. If you prefer the scissors, you can always cut around. It's the same, just cut in the bleed. Just like that. Trim off excess and follow your guide. To simplify the top of the arch decals, I made them into one sticker since they're side by side, and it prevents you from having to glue 2 times and align them perfectly. If you did make the mistake of cutting it in the center, don't worry. When you replace them onto the arch, it'll give the same effect. On this sheet, you'll notice that I did it on purpose to align this edge all together to save you some trouble and allow you to do one straight cut for the 3 pieces. Just like that. Now again, only the outside edges. For this sheet, since it's the top layer and it's 27 centimeters wide, the sheet of paper cannot accommodate that large piece of decal. So I had to separate it into 2 pieces here. And the reason that you'll notice that there's your bleed around only 3 corners here and the same thing here is because these 2 edges overlap each other in order to give the illusion of one long decal. So you want to go and align the bleed like you did for the other decals. Go all the way around your pieces here. Now on one end you'll see the bleed is there, so align and cut like the other 2 sides. Flip it around and see there's no bleed on this side, so you want to cut a little bit inside of the blue. On the bottom of your decal you have your bleed, and then when you go to the top you see there's a crisp line without the bleed there. When you overlay your pieces, it'll blend into one. If I would have put the bleed all the way around, you would have gotten a black line, which would not have worked. For the right side half, align your bleed, slice that off. Then, over here, you see the little piece of blue left on the decal? That's how much you want to take off. Your 2 pieces should now align properly. Now you have all your stickers cut out. You have your A wall, your B wall, your E sticker ceiling, C and D inner sides, F and G outer sides, and then your H over here. Okay, for this next step I'll be using these 1, 2, 3 blocks. I discovered these on watching Adam Savage's video on his YouTube channel, and he was building like a diorama house, and I said, oh, I never saw that before. And you actually use these really heavy pieces of metal in order to act as a support and a counterweight to your foam core in order to get perfect straight edges and such. So I didn't put them in the materials list at the beginning because it's not something that you really need. You can still just hold your hand. I'll be showing you the difference between the 2 during the video. But in case you're wondering what this is when you see it, it's called 1, 2, 3 blocks, and thank you, Adam Savage. Okay, we want to start with one of our walls. They're both the same, so it doesn't really matter. And then we're going to be using the C, D, and E pieces. Let's start with your C piece. You're going to be aligning it as your side like this. You don't want it like this, sticking out. You want it flush. You want to do a nice 90-degree corner. This is the thickness and the zone of the foam core that I'm going to use to stick the piece on. So we're going to take some hot glue along the edge, and this you have to act fast with hot glue because it dries quickly. Then we're going to place it angled like this so that you don't dirty as much. Can you? I don't know if you could see that. You want to, don't put it straight on like this because it might dirty. You want to go like this and then lift it upwards. So you'll still be able to move it around for a couple of seconds. Make it go as flush as you can to the edge. And then use your eye to put this 90 degrees like that. If you do see some glue bubbling like this, you can use your finger and pass it over and it'll remove itself. It'll give you little glue snots. We'll move on to the next side. Now here I'll show you what it's like when you use these guides. So I can do a dry run of my piece by aligning it properly for the thickness. Then I press this against it. It gives me the exact thickness. Once the glue is on it, I could just lean it against it and then press it, and it'll be full 90 degrees exact. Not a little bit this way, not a little bit on the other way, but perfectly 90 degrees. So I put some hot glue and then carefully align it on the side, lift up, press against the 1, 2, 3 block, press down, make sure that here it's exactly flush because that's where it's going to lean on the floor. And scrape off some of the hot glue. Remove this. Now I have my two sides like that. The top piece is your E. Your ends, the width, reaches exactly the outside of this piece. So the width of here is your support for the top, and that's how it's glued. When you're assembling it, if you see that the sides aren't meeting, you can push this in so that it matches up exactly with the corner. This next step you have to act quickly because you're going to be putting hot glue on the two tops and then along the one side here. So along the side, a little strip like that, then your two sides over here, and then over here. Okay, now you're going to press down like this. Make sure that one corner is aligned perfectly, and then you have to make sure that your other corner is aligned perfectly. So you have two alignments to make, one on this corner, one on this corner, and then at the same time you have to make sure that here you are flush at the bottom at the same time over here. And see, the hot glue is already pretty much set. It goes really quickly. If you have spider webs, you can just remove it with your finger, just roll it, and it'll become a little snot like the other ones, and you just throw it away. I have my center arch walls done. Now we're going to be placing the other half. You're going to want to make sure, obviously, that your pieces are aligned properly. The inside fits perfectly, but if your side is not flipped in the right direction, you'll have 6 inches here, but on the back you'll have 9, And then the same thing 6 and 9, which is not what you want. You want to make sure that when you attach this, that your 6-inch piece matches up with the 6-inch side over here. Same thing with your 9 and 9. To facilitate this next step, what I always do when I'm dealing with multiple zones of hot glue, since it dries so quickly, I am going to apply it here first, a little bit, maybe this much section, but I'm going to concentrate on this first, and then when I apply it, it'll give me time to align this zone perfectly, and this piece is long enough that once this is secured in place, I can still lift it slightly and fit the nozzle of the hot glue underneath the crack, and then be able to lower this and concentrate on aligning the other side perfectly instead of having to try and align the 3 sides at the same time within the span of the 10 seconds before the hot glue gets too cool and then everything becomes a hot mess. Does that make sense? Okay, let's start with hot glue on this side, just maybe an inch at the top, then go down the sides over here. Okay, now carefully align this with the edge. Make sure the bottom touches, the top touches at the corner over here. You want to press down, and you want to make sure that this, when you pass your finger like this, is flush. You don't want it to go like a speed bump. You want it to be nice and clean for your decal. I'm going to keep my finger on it until the hot glue cools down a little bit so it doesn't jiggle out of place. This piece is now secure. If we turn it around, see how I was explaining that you can kind of play around with this? Okay, I'm going to grab my hot glue and press it carefully along the side. Then I'm going to press down. Make sure to align in the corner over here and align it flush on the other end as well. I know it's hard to see with the black. You'll see it better when I'll give some better angles once it dries there. I just want to make sure that it's secure. See over here? It should be nice and flush. The thickness of the foam core is here. And then this overlaps like this. And then the other thickness over here, this is the other thickness, lays on top or lays under this top piece as a frame. When you look at it sideways, this is nice and flush now. These pieces are now attached. So you have your center arch walls in position, but you'll notice that here there's no strength yet on the top and bottom. That's where your F and G pieces will be going in between your 2 pieces, like sliding like a drawer. With this 5 centimeter wide piece here, you add these and it makes 6 centimeters, which is the width of your decals. So your decal skin, once applied, will cover the exact width of your arch wall. At the same time, you're going to get the extra support at the ends that you don't have when the end pieces are not in place. Okay, now we're going to grab our F or G pieces. They're both the same. Let's start with the 9 centimeter side. It doesn't matter if you want to start with this side, both are the same technique. Let's start with the 9 centimeters, what I'm going to be doing. Start by putting some hot glue on only one side of your F piece, like that. Then you're going to want to slide it in Put your fingers like this. And then you're going to move it upwards. Put some pressure by squeezing each end, but make sure before you do that this is flush. It is very important. There's no speed bumps here. You want it to be smooth when you touch it. And you want it to be exactly flat, flush. That's like a tongue twister. Flat flush with the bottom over here. Once that cools, 15-20 seconds, we can move to the other side. Since we didn't glue this side, I'm able to separate it like this, and I'm able to expose the side of the F piece in order to put some hot glue on this, and then by pressing this back down and then pressing this closed, I make the connection that allows me to fiddle and make sure that this bottom is straight and flat, and that this side is all flush from the bottom to the top, so that when you put your decal, you're not going to get any speed bumps. You're going to get a nice, fresh, clean decal here. I'm sticking out the F piece here. I'm going to put some hot glue. Then I'm going to lift this, close this inside, and then lower it onto the F piece. Now while I'm doing this, I have to jiggle on the sideways and up and down in order to align the top, the bottom, and the sides. Because we're not doing both sides at the same time, it gives you that extra time leeway to jiggle and move this side now to make it as flat as possible here and at the top, but most important, flush, flat on the ends, just like you did on the inside. You don't want to have a speed bump. You don't want to feel your fingers traveling flat and then going like that. When you reach the end, you want it to be as flat as possible. Now we're going to apply the H piece, which will slide in between like a drawer like we did for the other ones. It'll go right in between the two layers until it meets up with the F piece over here. This will make really secure and really square your top arch here, and you'll notice that it stops at a gap here. That's because when you're going to put your other side, it's going to align like this to it. Okay, what we have here is a bit of a mess because this is take 2. My technique didn't quite work well, and I burned my finger and the glue hardened before I had time to press it against the thing. So I think the technique that we need to do first is the technique of sliding it in place, letting that dry, and then being able to wiggle around with this and have that glue itself. So what we want to do is take the hot glue on one side only, like this, and then you want to slide it like when we did the dry run. Slide this in place. Okay. And then you want to press it until it reaches the end. Press it down. Some glue might squeeze out, which is fine. Just make sure it's flush. You can take a piece of scrap like this, and then, so you don't burn your finger, move it along. See, the glue will stick onto this and not burn you. And now you can press down, make sure you have a flush side. Okay, now we know that this zone is glued. We just are going to let it cool down and make sure that it's hot. I mean that it's not hot anymore, and that it's secure in place. Now, these little glue marks that I have by the mess that I made before, that'll be hidden with the decal. And on top of it, if you put a sealing on it, you won't even see it. Once this is cooled down a bit, you'll be able to lift this carefully. You want to expose both sides of your styrofoam top here. And what we're going to do is we're going to hot glue on this, and then we're going to place it back in place, and then use our scrap piece to smooth out whatever excess of glue pops out. So that's the plan. Are we ready? Let's do it. Okay, I can spread this open a little bit. Press one side in first, and then try to lift and sandwich it in between. You see I'm still getting hot glue. I'm used to the heat getting burned, so I'm not screaming like I used to when I first started making dioramas. Okay, now you want to smooth this out with your scrap. Now it'll create these unsightly kind of like glue bubbles, but once the glue cools a little bit, in 20 seconds, 30 seconds, you'll be able to, with your nail, you'll be able to scrape these off. These boogers will just come off. Now make sure, press down on this as it cools off, so that you get as flush an edge as you can for your skin. We have one last piece that goes here, sandwiched in between, and see how it fits at the top, closes like your lid. For this, we're just going to put hot glue here on the lip and then close it in place, let that cool, and then on the insides we'll just let some hot glue drip down, and then that'll keep that strong in place. So a bit of hot glue, align this, slide it in, press it down, make sure it's flush here and here. Press that, let it cool for 15-20 seconds. Now flip your piece around. You'll notice that it's loose because it's not attached at the bottom. Place it inside like so. Squeeze the two ends together. You want to put pressure here. As you're putting pressure, align the front by pushing outwards from the inside. See if I exaggerate the push. See if I'm pushing too hard. You want to cause it to be flush with this. You don't want this edge, you want it to be flush like that, nice and clean. Hold your piece of base like this, and then you're going to angle it. You want to put the nozzle deep down in there and then move it towards the top, and you want the glue to be down the crack of the bend here. Okay, so you just go like that. Do you see that? Put more than you need, it'll steam. It's going to burn the styrofoam together and mend it. Don't remove pressure from your fingers, because if your shape moves along a little bit, you're going to lose the flush that you had before. This is what it looks like a little bit once it starts cooling down. It's very, very hot, so don't put your finger in there. You'll definitely get burned. For this, you wait about a minute 2 minutes before moving on to this side. Okay, now for the other corner. Put your hot glue inside, just squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. You see that? So you'll get a foamy texture like this. Make sure not to take the pressure off your corner there. This will have to hold for about 1 or 2 minutes with your hands to make sure that it doesn't pop out of shape, since the hot glue, the amount of hot glue that you put in is so much that it's making the styrofoam of the foam core melt, and so that's why it takes longer to cool than when you just put a strip on normally. Once the glue is cooled down, your construction is complete. Now all we have to do is put the skins on and the archway will be ready for your diorama. Before we apply the decals onto the archway, we have to prep the sides of them with a Sharpie pen in order to avoid having white lines or white seams stick out on every side of each decal, which would then be counterproductive of using black foam core instead of white foam core to hide the connections between the decals. This step is not essential, but it will make for a nicer finish when the decals are applied. What you want to do is just go around each thickness of the stickers. What you want to do is go around the thickness of each of your stickers in order to hide that white paper thickness that I was telling you about. If you printed on decal label sheets or plain paper sheets, the effect is the same. Your thickness is still white, that little white millimeter thickness, but it does show up when you place it against the black. So use the side of your tip to just carefully go along the edge. You don't want to press onto your decal because then it'll make a black mark. You just want to press lightly like this. If you make a mess like this on the outside, it doesn't matter because you're going to be peeling that or sticking it on anyhow, but you don't want to be doing a line like this on the decal side. So that's why angle slightly your paper and angle your pen towards the outside like this instead of like that. Does that make sense? And then just go around. Just let the side thickness of the pen lean against the decal sheet, and just lightly. It'll take some practice. I've been doing this technique for years now, so I'm kind of used to it. It's boring, but the result is much nicer. So we do this for every single sheet. The more angled your pen is, the easier it is to catch just the edge. You don't want to be drawing like this onto the side because that'll be almost impossible. It's doable, but it's much harder. See? You want to have it at an angle, and then you want to use, it might kill your Sharpie faster because you're going to be eating into the felt, but it's an easier way to make sure that it goes only on the spine of the decal and not on the decal itself. Make sure not to put your black line on the cut for your top piece that did not have the bleed. Put the black line on the bleed edge only, not on this part. Same thing for the little piece. Black line around here, the bleed, not here where it's flush. No, no, no. finally we're done. Now it's time to apply the decals, my favorite part. This is where your archway and all the diorama with decals really come to life. If you didn't use sticker sheets, use Yoo-hoo or glue stick in order to apply your decals. Never ever use a hot glue gun. The hot glue will cause bubbles to warp under it. It'll cause all kinds of bumps in your decals. It'll make creases and make it look ugly, ugly, ugly. So avoid at all costs. Never ever use hot glue for decals. Glue stick only, or combination glue stick and sticker sheets. Let's just start with this side here. A tip I like to do is for the edges, in order to allow wiggle room, just place a little bit of Yoo-hoo glue. Even if you're using decal sheet, the glue stick will allow you to move the decal a little bit and give you some wiggle room before it sets perfectly. So peel this. For this piece, you want the tiny strip at the top. The black line of your shadows is at the bottom. White line highlight is at the top. Make sure to align it with your edges. When it's nice and clean, then you can start pressing on the inside and then towards the out. Center, out, center, out. Always prevents bubbles, things. If there's little pieces from the bleed that stick out, use our nail technique that we did on other videos. Just press your nail like this, or it's easier when you're moving it this way because you're going kind of like this with your nail, moving it to so that you're curving the decal, this little decal overlap, you're curving it inward to give it sort of like a rounded edge, and with your nail you have a stronger surface than just your finger. So when you do this, you're getting a nice bottom and it's curving towards the inside. Because we did the Sharpie technique, there's no white line between the decal or the thickness of the paper, and so it blends perfectly with your black foam core. Now do your nail technique all the way around on the inside as well. We'll just make it a bit nicer. Next up is placing this basic wall panel on this side. It's basically, for my design anyway, the same as that we see here. Yours can be different. This is just what I'm suggesting that you use if you want to follow my design. All of the basic hallway panels are all the same dimensions. So if you don't want this and you prefer to put a neon over here, you can do that as well. It's up to you. Use your imagination. So we will now apply a little bit on the four corners and a bit in the center. Peel this. Don't apply it to this. This is the wrong way to put it. You want to put it this way. Then you want to align it. Press in the center, then center out. center out, center out, your thumb. See, you don't see a white line from the decal application. Okay, this piece goes in between your arch and should fit perfectly. Just make sure that your thin strip is at the top. See, thin strip, thin strip. This is upside down. You want to flip this. So see how this matches now all together? Make sure to do a dry run first. Make sure that each corner fits nicely and you can align it to make it look like it's one decal, and it does. So Yoo-hoo glue. As I said, this allows you to manipulate the sticker a little bit and it'll help bond even better once it's completely dry. Okay, so I want to align this with the top. I'm going to go this way. See, I can wiggle it a little bit and make sure. Even if it's not perfect, it's not the end of the world. It's gonna still have the love that you put into it. That's what counts. 3D printing and all is fun, but when you make it by hand like this, it's just, for me, it's more satisfying. Okay, fingernail curve. So this side is done. Now we go and apply the other side, which is the same thing. Sticker, 9cm sticker on this end. Oh crap. Crap. When I went to apply the sticker, I turned it around and I noticed that the 3-inch strip, the half strip, was on the inside of the frame, which is not how I wanted it to be because I used the wrong decal. I put this decal, I mean, if I flip it, this decal should have been on this side. See the difference? Here's what it looks like with the thin strip, half strip of the wall on the inside, and then the way I wanted it was like this, where this is on the outside and then this is closer to the two. Now again, this shows you how if you decide to put it here, it's cool. It works just as well as you see. It's just that my OCD brain is gonna like bug me until either I reprint another one and then change it, or you know, I think I'll live with it and I'll just love it the way it is. So let's apply on this side. I could cut it, move it sideways, and then just glue this strip as if it was 2 decals, which basically goes to say the same thing as if you wanted this here instead, you could do that. If you wanted to have another wall in here instead, you could do that. The choices are limitless. That's what's cool about the Death Star. It's all modular. Everything fits together like Lego. It's what makes the diorama build really fun and makes it so that kids can do this as well with a bit of parents' help for the hot glue, but the rest easily doable for children, say like 5 and 6 and older. Never too young to learn about arts and craft. Okay, so I'm applying this. I'm going for it. Left. Okay. Center out, center out, center out, center out. Fingernail. This one needs a bit more of a bend than the other, but that's fine. You'll never have 100% perfect alignment, but the bleed allows you to give the effect, the illusion, once you're looking at it far away and all your figures are placed and all that. So a bit of glue stick around the edges. Top, bottom, that's what's most important. Align. Yeah, that's nice. Press in the center. Center, outwards, center, outwards, center, outwards, center, outwards. Fingernail. Two center strips. That looks good. Glue stick. Remember, small at the top. So this, I align this here. And then bring it down. There you have it. And at the top a little bit. Flip it and work the underside. Okay, we have our front, back. Nice. Now we need to work on the insides. The decal design style that I chose for my build on this is this one, because I like the little sort of like control panel thing here. And the black spacer vent at the bottom. Now, you don't have to use these again. You can use whichever you want. But if you do use a basic HALLWAY decal, the thing you have to change is you have to remove the top 2 centimeters over here. If you were using, say this, you'd have to remove this top, because this top is here on your archway. So these are actually, instead of 15 centimeters, they're 13 centimeters because they fit exactly at the bottom like this. This is the fun part of this design with the stickers, is that here you have the foam core thicknesses, right? And in order to hide that, you make this centerpiece be flushed with the outsides, and then the sides create the thickness of your decal. So when it's placed, it hides the thickness of your foam core. When you're placing your center skin, what you want to do, which is most important, is that you want to align, make sure that the alignment at the bottom is correct, right, with the other side, so that when it's folded over and placed, your little one lip over here matches up with the one lip over here, and it'll look cleaner. So when you're doing your dry run, place it here first at the bottom. Keep your finger pressed when it's in place. Then flip your arch around, and you'll see that if there's any excess that needs to be trimmed, you can just simply follow with your finger, press down over here, and then if you get a little fold, you can just trim this off with your scissors. And now, because I cut it, I exposed the white, I need to do another Sharpie pass on my cut. My sticker should now fit perfectly. Because the thickness of the foam core is rough, this is a part where you really do need to put some glue stick on, and put a fairly nice amount on so that the decals won't rub off or come off from that surface. Don't press too hard until it's aligned properly. Okay, this side looks good. Move it just slightly more. If there's a curved area here, make sure to lay the sticker on top. Use the little nail technique, blend the two pieces together. Same thing underneath. There we go. This center skin of the column is done. Now we want to do this side. Dry run. Make sure everything aligns nicely. It does. Press down. Slight little crease here. See, not much. Just a little piece. Some glue stick. Peel the sticker. Black vent at the bottom. Yeah, nice. This one actually aligns nicer than the other side. You'll notice that sometimes stickers have minds of their own. Sometimes they fit better than others. Center, out, center, out. Round nail. Round nail. Another nice part of the bleed design in the decals is that it acts as a nice sort of like demarcation for the joints. It doesn't make it seem as if they're out of place. Oh, there's no sticker there. I haven't put the stickers on the sides yet. It also acts as a nice sort of like seam where the two decals overlap and the darkness makes it really blend together. This is where your neon comes in. This will go like this. Do a dry run. You'll see that. Try to center it, and if you do have to trim a little bit on the ends, it's better to trim a little equal on both sides so that this remains centered. So I'm just going to use my nail to make a little crease here, and then a little crease on this side. The tiniest of trimming on both ends. Now Sharpie on both cut ends. Glue stick, never hot glue. Don't use hot glue. I'll come in and find you at your home. I cut my nails and it's harder to peel compared to the last video I did on purpose to leave long thumbnails. Align against the edge. This should fit just perfect. And on both ends, like that. Press down center, center outward, center outward, center outward. There we go. Little thumb technique. We now have a ceiling inside the arches. If you are putting a ceiling in your diorama hallway and using this arch just as a separator, and you're not going to see this, you don't need to apply this skin necessarily. It's optional. If you're placing it facing this way, like this, or this way, it doesn't matter, and it's inside the 27 centimeter standard hallway, meaning that you're going to have a wall here and a wall there, and you will not see these sides. You don't need to waste sticker or time to hide these. However, if you're doing a shelf display, basic diorama, where it's just a background with a floor, and you want to use this as a divider to make it look cool, and then what you're seeing is looking at this, then you will want one of these side decals. But I'm going to apply them anyway just to show you what it looks like if you were to put it sideways, but it's up to you if you finish at this step or if you continue till the very end. Okay, I decided that for this short column, I am going to put the neons on the end over here. In the neons, you'll notice that there's kind of like a shadow emboss. There's a darker shadow at the top and a lighter one at the bottom. If you flip it, the embossing gives you the illusion slightly that the neon is sticking outside instead of going inside. So this way it's giving the illusion that it's inside. Does that make sense? Anyhow, it's not the end of the world, but what you want to do is try to keep the dark shadow at the top. Put some Yoo-hoo or glue stick. Let's peel this. Peel the other end. And align. Excellent. And press down, center. Because it's flush when you made it and you don't have the speed bumps, you're getting a nice decal. Curve with my nail. Corners here. Blend them in nicer. And the bottom. Pretty sweet. I love that pattern. It's so iconic, isn't it? Okay, other side, I chose this one. So dry run, glue stick, and bottom, center, center, outwards, center, outwards, outwards, center, outwards. Okay, dry run. This sticker will close our project. Little piece. You see the overlap? Glue stick. Never, never hot glue. Peel this. These three borders are the ones with the bleed. The one at the top where my finger is, that's the clean cut. Okay, that's where the overlap will be. So we want to leave that on the edge there. Flip it around. It's time for this side. Of the thickness is where the foam core texture is different than the flat side, so that's where it's harder for this decal to stick. That's why you want this glue stick to help you along. Peeling, last piece. I can smell the end. Is that even an expression? I don't know. I'm smelling the end. I can see the end of the tunnel. I know that. Okay, again, fresh cut. This is your seam overlap. All the other three sides with the bleed will go on top. So this I need to align here and then align with one of the edges. Down, then center out, center out, center out, and then pressure on the bleed. And there you have it. Your hallway archway diorama option is completed. Now the fun thing about this is that if you want to add this as an accessory piece to your diorama, you can make 2, 3, how many you want. The fun thing is that it acts as a support for the ceiling, and which in case you do that, it makes it so that when you stack another room on top, this is strong enough that it'll allow you to have multi-tier, like when you do Lego, of stacked different rooms and stuff like that. So that is the basic usage of this, and so it has aesthetics, but at the same time a purpose for the diorama build. So if you decide to make this or not as an accessory to your Mega Death Star project, it's up to you. I think it's a cool addition. And now you can follow the other videos and see what other options you have in order to assemble everything together and create your Mega Death Star diorama of your own.
Thanks for watching DioramaWorkshop.com. If you want more interactivity, you can follow us on these multimedia platforms. If you have a question about past or future Star Wars Celebration workshops, send me an email at dioramaworkshop.com@gmail.com. If you have a Facebook account, join the official Star Wars Celebration Diorama Builders fan club today. If you like the video, please subscribe, share, and tell your friends to come check us out. If you want to see even more Star Wars Celebration crew coverage, click on the link to warp to dioramaworkshop.com, the official Star Wars Celebration Diorama Builders website.